Only the good die young. It's no surprise that Dexter Morgan is back. With Dexter Resurrection on the horizon, here's our recap to get you ready. After faking his death in the original series finale, Dexter Morgan re-emerged in the small town of Iron Lake, New York, living under the alias Jim Lindsay in Dexter New Blood. He traded Miami's sun-soaked crime scenes for a quiet existence, working at a sporting goods store and dating the local police chief, Angela Bishop. For 10 years, he's managed to keep the dark passenger at bay. That is, until his past catches up with him. With the arrival of Matt Caldwell, the arrogant and entitled son of local wealthy businessman Kurt Caldwell, Dexter's old urges awaken. Matt is reckless, violent, and responsible for a deadly boating accident. All boxes that can be checked off for our killer's list. When Dexter finds proof that Matt has evaded justice, he breaks his decade-long abstinence and kills Matt. This act shatters his peaceful existence, setting off a chain reaction that ultimately leads to his downfall at the end of the series. The biggest shift in New Blood comes with the arrival of Harrison, Dexter's teenage son, last seen as a baby in the original Dexter series finale. Now played by Jack Alcott, Harrison tracks Dexter down, seeking answers about his father's past. At first, Dexter struggles with whether to tell him the truth, but it soon becomes apparent that Harrison might have inherited some of his father's own dark tendencies. Showing signs of deep trauma and an innate rage, Harrison's outbursts come out unchecked. This is apparent when he violently injures another student in a wrestling match. Dexter realizes Harrison doesn't have a code. Initially seeing this as an opportunity to bond with his son, Dexter believes he can guide Harrison in a similar way as he was guided as a child. But their relationship grows more complicated when Dexter's lies are no longer believed by Harrison. Another family member makes an appearance in New Blood, Dexter's deceased sister, Deborah Morgan. Unlike Harry's guidance in the original series, Dexter's conscience manifests his sister as a chaotic, haunting presence. She comes out as a form of Dexter's shame and guilt, always reminding him of the destruction he leaves in his wake. With each mistake he makes, her presence grows more aggressive.
You selfish psycho.
Throughout the series, Deborah repeatedly warns him about his poor decisions, especially regarding Harrison, even forcing her brother to relive the moment he abandoned his son. The guilt creates a bigger struggle to remain in control, and is a stark reminder that Dexter's attempts at redemption may be futile. Kurt Caldwell may be a beloved figure on the surface, but he hides a dark secret. He has been secretly preying on young women for years in a twisted game of cat and mouse. His method leads him to abduct them and hold them captive before releasing them into the woods to hunt them down. His cunning and surreptitious ways come in handy when he learns that Dexter has killed his son. Instead of impulsively seeking a violent revenge, Kurt plays the long game. He manipulates those around him, exploiting people's trust, making it harder for Dexter to operate under the radar, and ensuring that his downfall is slow. Kurt's psychological warfare may have forced Dexter to be more cautious than ever, but it has also created a monster. Instead of taking his normal precautions, Dexter's dislike of Caldwell causes him to start making mistakes, putting our protagonist in a vulnerable position. Kurt's ability to manipulate emotions and his deep understanding of human nature proves that, in the end, it's not just about skill and secrecy, it's about influence and control. This is a lesson that Dexter can take into Resurrection and make himself potentially even more dangerous, especially if he allows his rage to bubble over and ignore his code. Angela's investigation of the town's growing mysteries starts to home in on the perpetrator as she begins connecting the dots to Dexter. Her discovery of a needle mark on one of Dexter's victims finally brings the realization that he is indeed the Bay Harbor Butcher. She gathers enough evidence to arrest him, and that's when he makes his biggest mistake yet. In a desperate attempt to escape, Dexter kills a well-meaning and innocent cop named Logan, going against everything his code stands for. This is the moment that shatters Harrison's faith in his father and reaffirms his worst fears. Throughout the season, Harrison has been questioning Dexter's morality, but when he discovers that Dexter willingly killed someone who didn't deserve it, he understands the truth. Dexter isn't a hero, he's just a cold-blooded monster. In the final moments of New Blood, Dexter accepts his fate, knowing he can never truly change. The code now seems more like an excuse or band-aid over a much deeper and darker cavern. In an emotional and tragic ending, he urges Harrison to shoot him.
This is the only way out.
Breaking the cycle once and for all, Harrison pulls the trigger, shooting his father in the chest and escaping Iron Lake, leaving behind the legacy of Dexter Morgan. Although it may seem the end for the killer with a code, we know he's not gone yet. Dexter Original Sin took fans back to the 1990s, exploring the origins of Dexter's dark passenger. This prequel series provides essential background on Dexter's formative years, his relationship with Harry, and the events that shaped him into the infamous vigilante serial killer. A major focus of Original Sin is the father-son relationship between Dexter and Harry Morgan. A seasoned homicide detective, Harry recognizes Dexter's psychopathic tendencies at a young age. Having tried other ways to suppress his son's dark passenger through hunting, etc., Harry realizes that no other avenue was working. In a last-ditch attempt, he teaches Dexter a way to, sort of, suppress his murderous urges. He devises a strict moral code with the boy, teaching Dexter to only kill those who deserve it.
I've been waiting to hear those words for so long.
Such as murderers who have escaped consequences. This leads to Dexter's first kill. Dexter sees no issue in taking his misguided sense of justice into his own hands. Guided by his adoptive father's code, Dexter targets a nurse who almost murdered Harry. When Harry discovers what Dexter has done, he is heartbroken, but eventually resolves that as long as the code stays intact, there is no other option. This is the birth of the Bay Harbor Butcher, and a moment that solidifies his identity, marking the beginning of his double life. At the same time, we see Dexter's bond with his adoptive sister Deborah begin to form. Unlike in the original series, where Deborah is tough and independent, Original Sin portrays her as young and vulnerable, still idolizing their father. This works as a stark reminder as to how Harry's bizarre way to help his son is passed down, and is mirrored in New Blood when Harrison is guided in a similar way by Dexter. Considering Dexter's choice to pursue his dark urges is amplified by this first event, it shows him for what he really is, and that the code was a pretense all along. One of the biggest revelations in Original Sin is Dexter's early connection to his biological brother, Brian Moser, who also suffers from the same darkness. However, unlike Dexter, Brian wasn't raised with either a code or any psychiatric help. Instead, he fully embraces his violent nature. When the two cross paths in the original series, Brian tries to pull Dexter into his world, arguing that their urges should be indulged, not controlled. Brian's presence serves as an alternate path for Dexter, though it's one he ultimately rejects, choosing to follow Harry's rules and kill his own brother. The influence of Brian never truly fades. This links back to the realizations that we see in the finale of New Blood. With Dexter Resurrection on the way, all of these events set the stage for what comes next. Harrison's story is far from over. New Blood heavily hinted that Harrison has the same urges as Dexter, but without a code to guide him. With his own dark passenger hiding inside, will he follow in his father's footsteps, or break free from this dark legacy? And finally, the man himself. Dexter is currently trapped in hospital. Will he escape? Will he search out his son? And has his acceptance of who he truly is made him a much darker force to be reckoned with? We'll have to wait and see. What do you think? Will Harrison embrace his father's code or forge his own path? Could we see the return of any familiar faces? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. Thanks for watching Screen Rant, and stay tuned for more Dexter news.